So hello there guys, and we are back. We are here at DNF1 and welcome to the live watch-along of the Miami Grand Prix qualifying session. As always, I am Adam Burns, the host of this live watch-along, and joining me, one of my DNF1 co-stars, Mr. Courtney Pine, joining us from the comfort of his sofa watching qualifying with us. Courtney, how are you doing? And looking forward to your first watch-along with DNF1.
Oh, doing fantastic, mate. I feel like, this is prime time viewing for our fans. I feel like we're the Ant and Dec of Formula One, and I'm very much looking forward to doing a live stream with you, mate.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Couldn't agree more. And yeah, just checking the audio. I hope you guys can hear me
That's
okay.
better.
Let me know if, yeah, it's a bit better now. I don't know what was going on there. Anyway, yeah, obviously we're about to get ready for qualifying. 10 minutes away from qualifying here in Miami. Now, of course, just as a casual reminder to those of you that aren't familiar with these live watch-alongs, we're going to be a little bit behind the main broadcast on TV, probably around about 20-30 seconds or so at the most. So if you are watching this live on television, please do refrain from putting spoilers in the chat. We'd really appreciate that because, of course, some of you might not be watching qualifying. You might be following it with us for whatever reason. And, of course, we love you for it. So, yeah, out of respect for some people in the chat, no spoilers, of course. But it's going to be an exciting qualifying session as we're about to get underway. Let us know, guys, where you are watching this watch along from. Where are you watching qualifying from around the world? Of course, we're in Miami. A lot of our followers of the podcast are based in America, so it would be pretty cool to see if some of you guys have decided to tune in and watch qualifying with us. And so let me know. Also, guys, let me know your predictions for qualifying. We've had free practice sessions at this new circuit. There's been a lot of talk about who's going to be fast or not. At the moment, it does seem like Red Bull are the favourites at the moment. Ferrari are there or thereabouts, but they seem to lack that straight line speed. I'm just watching the broadcast. There seems to be a bit of an issue with Carlos Sainz's car. And we haven't got, yeah, it's another problem with Sainz's car. So hopefully Ferrari can get that sorted. What about Mercedes as well? You know, Mercedes looked very, very cook on Friday. Earlier in free practice 3, they looked absolutely nowhere. It looked like they were suffering from the same issues that they had before with the porpoising. So we'll have to wait and see how they get on. As you can see, guys, if you're watching this, you will see that we've got our predictions for qualifying. So I'll just run through those very, very quickly before we get underway. So I've gone with Sergio Perez on pole position for a 1-2 with Red Bull. I just think Perez looked very good in practice 3. Managed to get his fastest lap away, did a brilliant final sector, which is an area that some people seem to struggle ahead of the two Ferraris, assuming that Sainz hasn't got a problem. And then Fernando Alonso looked good in FP3 as well in P5. Lee, who's not with us at the moment, he's away on holiday with his missus. So, hi Lee, hope you're doing okay, enjoying yourself and watching the Formula 1 wherever you are. He's gone with Verstappen pole, Russell in second, and you never know, George Russell might be able to replicate that pace from yesterday in the Mercedes. He's been looking good this weekend. Leclerc, Perez, and Hamilton. And Courtney, seeing as we've got you with us, I'll let you run through your top 5. You've gone with Verstappen pole, Leclerc second, Perez third, Russell fourth, and Carlos Sainz in P5.
Yeah, I just think I feel that George Russell will, get back to the form he had yesterday. I think I noticed in third practice that, despite the timesheets or where the relative teams were placed, in terms of like ultimate lap time, the Mercedes still had that ultimate lap time. So I do think there is time for them to find. So they could find themselves there again. I do think Red Bull have it in the bag. I just think Verstappen has that little, edge of talent about him as well. That combination of where the Red Bull and both the driver are at the moment, I do think he's going to have the edge. I think Leclerc will be up there. Phil Russell will be up there. Obviously, Perez, I think Perez has always been doing a good job for Red Bull in qualifying this season. And Carlos Sainz, I just think he's going to struggle. He's had a very messy weekend. So I think he'll be happy with a top 6 start, all things considered. So, yeah.
Yeah, he's looked okay, Sainz, but he's not really been able to find the performance in the way that his teammate has. And maybe he was affected by that crash that he had in FP2 yesterday. Esteban Ocon had a similar incident, so we'll have to wait and see if he's able to get out in qualifying at all after that incident he had in FP3. Very similar to what Sainz had. Just seeing some people in the chat, JKM Wilnsdorf, forgive me if I pronounced that wrong, watching all the way from Germany. So, yeah, I hope you're enjoying the coverage so far. Glad to have you aboard. Let us know your predictions for qualifying, guys. Would love to know what you think the top 5 is going to be, or perhaps you're just going to give us a name for who you think is going to be in pole position as well, or any perhaps bold predictions, perhaps for the top 10. I've been looking liking the look of Mick Schumacher in FP3. I think he's been not bad this weekend. I think he certainly had the measure of Magnussen in practice, but of course he'll have to put it together in qualifying. So maybe we'll see some good performance from him. He was sixth fastest, I think, in FP3. Fernando Alonso was looking good as well in Alpine. So he may be flying solo for Alpine in qualifying this afternoon. We'll have to wait and see. Looking quite quick as well. Vettel, as he's been doing in Imola, looked quite quick also. So we'll have to see what he can do. It's quite a mixed up order so far. And this is a new circuit. And Courtney, as we often say, when you go to these new circuits, especially a street circuit, sometimes it doesn't necessarily go according to form. Sometimes it can just rely on someone to put in a great lap together, and they can put in, they can really move up the order. Alex Albon, great example of that. He's been looking quite quick as well. So be careful for someone like him. He may end up near the top 10 this weekend.
Yeah, I think actually there's a few things that are going to make this qualifying session more interesting than usual. I think the fact that where we are with the regulations, it seems to be a lot less predictable. And, with it being a street circuit, and particularly at a tight and twisty section, we're going to be seeing some high profile drivers. We've been seeing the likes of Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen make mistakes in the practice session. So these are the type of corners that catch the best of drivers out. So definitely expect a surprise or two during this qualifying session.
Yeah, well, there's definitely that slow section, the small chicane area at the end of Sector 2 that almost caught Max Verstappen out in FP3. Made a mistake and it almost ended up in the wall where the Red Bull barriers are, which would have been quite ironic. And slamming on the brakes, managed to save it, which of course has allowed him to carry on, and it could have spelt a nightmare for his qualifying hopes this afternoon. Just seeing in the chat, David Doherty. Hi, David, regular follower of the podcast. Hope you're well, David.
Hello, Dave.
Yep, good to have you along. He's gone with Leclerc pole, and bold prediction, Hamilton P2. That would be quite bold. And not to say that Lewis certainly can't get P2. It's certainly not out of the question. But Mercedes on Friday, they obviously brought a lot of upgrades to the car. Not necessarily the wholesale of changes, but with a view to it being the first stage of upgrades that we expect to see more of in Barcelona. And they did seem to show some early promise. That alone would be quite interesting. George Russell was fastest in FP2, still has the unofficial lap record, the only driver in the 129s over the course of the weekend. So there is early promise there that Mercedes, in the right conditions, may have found some performance. But what do you reckon, Courtney? Because it did look encouraging on Friday, but then in FP3, they did seem to fall back well outside the top 10, and they were struggling with porpoising. They just couldn't get the power down, and they were down on power compared to, well, not power, they were down on speed compared to the likes of Red Bull, for example. So what are your thoughts on Mercedes? Do you feel that they've improved? These upgrades have helped them, or do you feel that it's too early to tell with what limited data that we have, especially on a new circuit where everybody's learning all the time?
Well, that's the thing. It could well be track specific, but it's close. I mean, Max Verstappen and Leclerc, I expect them to be in the league of their own today. But I think maybe Perez, Perez is in with a shout of getting himself in a good position. But other than that, like from about 4th to about 12th, it's really tight. So both of the Mercedes boys are going to have to be, right on their game if they want to start high up in the grid, because, you said it earlier on, you've got drivers like Albon, Bottas, Mick Schumacher. One of the practice sessions, even Guan Yu Zhou was up there. So there's going to be a very, very tight grid. And the McLaren boys, 1 minute they're looking cast adrift. I was watching the practice sessions, but 1 minute they're looking cast adrift, and all of a sudden Lando Norris put a great time in out of nowhere. So if the Mercedes really want to sort of showcase any improvements they've made to the car, both of their drivers are going to have to be on top form, because this is going to be a very competitive qualifying session.
Yeah, absolutely right. And what did you make of that crash helmet for Lando Norris, the basketball crash helmet? That's that's something.
It is. That's a work of art. I think like some of the helmet designs have been like predictable. I'm looking at Max Verstappen's now, and it's just like the typical Miami, palm trees and all that jazz. Whereas like Lando Norris has been bold, and it actually looks good. But Lando Norris has always been one of the best helmet designers, I feel. So he's continued with that trend. I think it's Lewis Hamilton not the only driver that hasn't changed his helmet. I feel like he's one of like the very few drivers that's changed his helmet today.
No, I think there are quite a lot of drivers that haven't. The two Ferrari drivers haven't. Neither of the two Mercedes drivers. I don't think Ocon had his helmet changed, or if he has, it's very, very. I think it's just them. I can't think of really anyone else. I think everyone else has pretty much had a change. I think Bottas has got 3 different crash helmets this weekend. One for practice, one for qualifying and one for the race on Sunday. So that's certainly one to watch out for. Ricardo's obviously got a helmet change. There's certainly a lot going on there. I think Seb has sort of got a helmet change. I just think he's changed the wording, but the overall design and colour scheme is about the same. Guys, of course, as we're about to start qualifying, just as a reminder to you guys, obviously, if you're new to the channel, please consider liking the video and subscribing. Thank you, of course, to those of you that have. We've just gone past 600 subscribers, and we really, really appreciate that. So thank you so much, guys, for that one. Our target for the end of the season is to try and get to 1,000. So, yeah, hopefully we can get there. But, of course, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you are new to qualifying, of course, the format is rather simple. We have 3 qualifying sessions, Q1, Q2, and Q3, and the aim of the game is to set the fastest time possible to get through to the next session. In Q1, we have 18 minutes where the 5 slowest drivers will be eliminated, so the top 15 will get through. In Q2, it'll be 15 minutes of running where the next slowest 5 will be eliminated, and then we'll have Q3, the top 10 pole position shootout, where they'll decide the grid positions from 1st to 10th. If you are familiar with Formula 1, remember, this season, the tyre rule in Q2, where the fastest time that you set your Q2 tyre on, or sorry, fastest tyre you set your Q2 time on, that will be your race tyre. That's been scrapped. So the drivers, you won't be seeing anyone on medium tyres, unless they've got a shortage of soft tyres all of a sudden. So they won't have to worry about that. So it's just literally go as fast as you can. Don't have to worry about what tyres you're going to start the race on. Everybody's going to be on fresh tyres for the race. They did say there was going to be a chance of rain, 60% for qualifying. I'm looking at the pictures right now. I can't see the clouds looking difficult.
No,
looking
it's looking glorious out there, mate. I think that's going to be happening anytime soon.
Yeah, I think we've had a fair share of rain at the moment, as we're just about to get started for qualifying now. As we've got the timer in the screen, and we've just gone green, so we're live for qualifying. And I'm going to be, as I said, 20, 30 seconds behind the main broadcast, I'd imagine. Courtney, I know you're watching the broadcast.
No, you're like 90 seconds behind, mate. So
oh,
I'm going to have
really
to
bad?
I'm going to have to rein in my emotions if the Mercedes boys are up there.
I appreciate that, Courtney.
It's got to be like.
Yeah, I mean, I would normally watch the broadcast live on TV myself because I do have that capability. But unfortunately, because of where the position is, where I am based right now, I can't really get, I've got a TV behind me, those of you can see. But of course, if I have that on, it's going to look quite weird. And secondly, obviously, FOM will want this video taken down. Anyway, but
exactly.
Well, at the moment, we're at 17 minutes and 18 seconds counting down. So we'll see how we go as we're live for qualifying.
I have to say, I don't know, because there are rumours going on about Esteban Ocon not taking part in qualifying.
Yeah.
So on the graphic he's on there, but I don't know if he's going to be taking part at all.
Yeah. Well, of course he had that incident in FP3, so I'll tell you what, it wasn't a great crash, and not there are any great crashes, but it was one that did look like quite a bit of damage. And of course, the turnaround for FP3 to qualifying is around 2 hours. So it's going to be quite the turnaround in that Alpine garage. We'll have to wait and see if Ocon is coming out. But if he doesn't, that means that he will be out qualifying and will start at the back of the grid. Just seeing everyone on the circuit. Everybody's on the soft tyres. No one's taking chances. And Courtney, of course, being a street circuit, we're going to be expecting the times to ramp up as the session goes later on, as the track rubbers down. As seen Kevin Magnussen really can't lay the power down. That final corner, or one of the penultimate corners, was really proven to be a handful. They just can't lay the power down because of how off camber it is. And obviously they had the surface redone last night. I think it was like the second time over the course of the weekend that they've had to do that. So it's going to be quite greasy and dusty on that side.
Something I've noticed that on that part of the circuit is it's very easy for the drivers to overdrive and they overheat their tyres, and then that's just going to mess them up going on to the start straight. So they're really going to have to be on the ball. And I think the other thing worth noting, because of that tight, twisty section, in the practice sessions, they were very heavy with red flags. They're very quick to call red flags. So I think the drivers are going to have to just get those times in as soon as possible, because I just think we're in for a very unpredictable qualifying session, not only in terms of the raw pace of the teams, but anything could happen. But I think we're going to see a few situations where you're going to have, the big drivers like your Verstappen, your Leclerc are going to be on an important lap. They might have a scruffy first lap and might have to go again, but then a red flag could ruin their chances. So they have to get those banker laps in as soon as possible. I think that's why you're seeing everyone out there on the softs. Yeah, they're just getting those times in.
Well, I think everyone except for Alonso, the 2 Mercedes have just come out now, but other than Alonso and Bottas and Ocon, obviously, everyone else is on track. And you're right, Corny, it is important to get that quick lap in early. You may find that if there are going to be red flags. And bearing in mind, in qualifying, I'm just trying to remember rightly. Yeah, I think the red flags, the timer doesn't stop. So, or actually, no, does it stop? No, it actually does stop, doesn't it? Yeah, for qualifying. Sorry, I'm thinking of
In
free
practice.
practice. Yeah. But nonetheless, of course, the last thing you want is to be on a flying lap and then it gets ruined because someone's hit the barriers. Latifi, and gone off. He had an incident yesterday, Latifi. So we'll have to wait and see if he keeps it all together. Just watching some of the lap times come down now. What do you reckon the pole time's going to be, Courtney? Do you reckon we're going to might see some times in the 1:29s? We were close in FP3.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think if that's what George Russell's capable of in a practice session, you imagine what it's going to be like when a Red Bull has their full engine mode.
Oh,
So
absolutely,
definitely
yeah.
expecting. Yeah, I reckon Max Verstappen and pole lap probably being like the mid 29s.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Well, we might even get a
Yeah, Red
28.
Bull already looking rapid here, mate.
Yeah, we might get a 28 as well, just as we're
Yeah.
seeing Stroll's just gone faster for 1:31.7 on the softs. So, yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see. The track certainly looks slower than it was yesterday. Although just seeing Max Verstappen, I think, had to negotiate there. Sainz has just gone fastest in the 1:30. So we're starting to already see those lap times come down now, and Max is certainly looking on it. The opening part of this lap, we just see Norris going P2. So the lap times are certainly going to tumble right now already. And as I said, as this session goes on, as this qualifying session goes on, the lap times will get quicker and quicker and quicker. Just looking at the chat as well, just seeing a few new faces in the chat as well. Adelina, Gabriella, Mia, thanks for joining us. Courtney, is that some of your support network joining in the chat?
Yeah. I have a massive fan base, mate. Everyone loves me.
Well, that's it. They always say on this live stream, where's Courtney? We need to see more of Courtney on this live stream. Well, we've got him on. So no excuses, guys. You've got to tune in because Courtney can't come on every time because he's quite a busy man. So
Yeah, I'm usually at work, so I thought, look, it's prime time Saturday night viewing. How could I possibly miss this one?
that's it. Prime time content right there, and we're at the prime time viewing. So hopefully you guys will be able to stick around with us. Just watching Max Verstappen now coming down the back straight. That Red Bull is absolutely rapid in a straight line, and
Yeah.
it's proven to be quite the clever design concept, the low drag design concept. It runs less downforce than the Ferrari does, maybe even more less than the Mercedes. But that car is just designed to be so efficient in low drag conditions. Verstappen goes fastest by a massive 0.6 of a second. Now Perez also behind him on a quick lap as well, should easily go P2, I reckon, just wait for him to cross the line. And he does go P2, half a second off for Max, but
Yeah.
early days in this session. George Russell coming down the back straight as well. Lewis Hamilton also coming down there as well. Charles Leclerc only P5 at the moment, but early days in this session. Ricardo up there with Norris as well. So we're starting to see the order take shape and looking good so far. What's George Russell's time? A 1:30.8. So he's got a decent time on the board already. What's Lewis Hamilton doing? Hasn't been registered, so I'm not sure if he actually went in the pit or if that time counted. They are monitoring track. Oh, here he comes, actually. So, oh yeah, he backed off completely in that final part. He must have had an issue on the final lap, so he's backed off completely. So now Lewis is going to be on a flying lap. But yeah, sorry, I was just saying earlier, Courtney, about Mercedes. They had issues in FP3 where the car was porpoising. I don't know if that was the long run issue, but considering how quick they looked in FP2, the track obviously changing from Friday to Saturday, it just seemed that Mercedes surprising to see them both falling down the order, and even Lewis is still sliding at the moment. It's back and really getting loose at the end of the first sector.
I think Mercedes is still doing a lot of experimenting with this car. You think they've bought all sorts of upgrades. I think Toto Wolff commented earlier on in the week saying, we've got several solutions at least that we're looking at. So I think they're going to continue to have different setups, even with the different drivers, because they've got two competent drivers that they know can wring the neck out of their cars. So I do get the feeling that George Russell and Lewis Hamilton actually all season, I think they've probably been on different setups. I think that's why we've been seeing different performances from them. I think anybody sort of ruling Lewis Hamilton out, I think you'd be foolish to do that. I think there's a lot going on with this car and what they're trying to learn about it. But I do have confidence that once they figure out the issues with this porpoising, I'm not saying they're going to be up there back in the championship battle, but I think they're going to be in the mix for qualifying and maybe podium finishes with the likes of Ferrari and Red Bull. I think you'd be foolish to rule not only Mercedes out as a team, but you've got drivers like Lewis Hamilton and George Russell driving for you. I think you'd be very foolish to rule him out.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, we can admittedly say that as good as Lewis Hamilton is, there have been times where Lewis has not quite been at the races, pardoning the pun. You know, he's not been as good as we know he can be, and that takes time. He's been experimenting a lot on setup, and that's never always a guarantee that it's going to work out for him. So we'll have to wait and see. George has been absolutely brilliant so far this season. Only driver to finish in the top 5 in all the races so far. It doesn't surprise me that George is taking to life at Mercedes like a duck to water. It's not completely a new home for him. So we'll have to wait and see with Mercedes. I
Yeah,
mean,
Lewis looks like he's struggling at this point. He might be able to put another lap in, but at the moment
mm,
he's 1.3 seconds down.
yeah. Well, this is
So
what I mean. I think
hopefully,
it was that slide he had at the opening part of the lap
oof,
where the tires just get really hot, and when that happens, it's like driving on ice skates. You just cannot control it whatsoever. Just watching a replay of Pierre Gasly going into the chicane, going quite wide there. Probably the sensible option than trying to shoot over it.
track
So,
evolution's really coming into play here as well already.
yeah, just seeing Carlos Sainz now just
Yeah,
starting a flying lap. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And Charles Leclerc as well, a bit of a so-so first lap for him. So let's see what Ferrari can do now, carrying on the speed. They've been pretty mighty in the opening part of the lap. It's the next 2 sectors where you get the higher speed sections where the Ferrari tends to fall away from Red Bull. And as you can see, Sainz nearly half a second up on Verstappen in sector 1 already. So as you're saying, that Ferrari is looking really, really good in the opening sector. It's the rest of the lap. Leclerc's gone even faster than Sainz in the opening sector. Courtney's got to try and contain himself here because he's a little bit ahead of us here. So I appreciate Courtney. Yes,
yeah.
I might have to get just a gauge at your reaction on the stream that I can see just to see if the lap turns out to be good.
Lewis needs to be careful here. You know, he needs to be careful.
Well, he obviously he failed to get through to Q2 in Imola. He nearly
Yeah,
went out in Q2 in sorry, he went out in was it Q1 he went out in Singapore? Yeah, and then he failed to get almost went
yeah.
out in Q1 in Imola. So, you know, as I was saying, you know, there are times where it does get difficult, and Lewis has struggled as a result when he tries to go for these setup experiments. Just watching Sainz now, a bit shaky at that final part of the lap. Leclerc's gone purple in sector 1 and sector 2, so we'll have to see what this one is. Sainz goes 1:30.0, pole, not pole at the moment, Q1. I'm going to get pole position now. Let's see what Leclerc does. This probably will be the first 1:29 time, and it is massively faster. That's the fastest lap so far this weekend.
That's what the face was about, mate.
Yeah,
That's what that time was like. Here we go.
that's what it is, but it just shows that the track is ramping up now because Stroll's gone P5 ahead of Norris and Perez and Russell, so this track is getting faster now. So we'll see what Verstappen can do. He's gone P2, only 3 tenths off Leclerc. So, I mean, let's not forget Ferrari have brought a new rear wing that's meant to be more drag efficient, less drag on there, and of course a new engine upgrade as well, and ERS for Charles Leclerc. He's got the new power unit on. Sainz got the new power unit in Imola, minus the electrical components, but he wasn't able to use it for obvious reasons during the race. So Ferrari should be more rapid in a straight line than they have been. So that deficit that they have to Red Bull in straight line speed should be less than what it has been. But the Red Bull still looks pretty rapid. So early days in qualifying, but right now, Ferrari and Red Bull look in the class of the field right now as Alonso goes
I was gonna say.
P11.
I was going to say it looks like the traditional Ferrari versus Red Bull and a league of their own setup is continuing here, and it's just very, very, very tight behind them. So from fifth down to 16th, it could all change in the next couple of minutes. So definitely a lot to be keeping an eye on. Lewis is really struggling out there, you know, mate. He's trying to overtake an Alpine in the pits.
Well, this is it. I mean, traffic is going to be critical. It's a street circuit, let's not forget. So just watching Fernando Alonso having a bit of a brush against the wall in that little tunnel section. There was only a minor one, but certainly enough. I mean, if you're going to hit the wall there, even if it's a slight little brush like what Fernando's doing as the back end gets out a little bit, it just ruins your momentum all the way down that long straight. Just watching on board Lewis Hamilton go for that. Yeah, see, he's caught the outside of that chicane on the entry, and it's completely upset the rear end and upset the balance. And that's a tough part to get right. It really is in qualifying. But, you know, I've seen a lot in practice already, Courtney. Cars bouncing off the curbs when they try to attack that first part of the chicane to get the lap time. And it's almost similar to what happened to Leclerc at Variante Alta at Imola. It just completely sends the car the wrong way, and they're struggling. Let us know, guys, what your thoughts are so far for qualifying in the chat. Seeing David's quite busy in the chat. Absolutely loving that, Dave. Thank you very much. Colin, watching all the way from Austin in Buckinghamshire. From Buckinghamshire, watching from Austin. So yeah, welcome along, Colin, and hope you're enjoying it. And yeah, chuck us a few predictions. Let us know, guys, who you think's going to be on pole this afternoon. Just seeing as many as 40 viewers right now on the live stream. So yeah, this is quite nice. Thank you very much, you guys, for joining. I'm enjoying this. This is great.
We're officially massive, Adam. We're officially massive.
That's it. That's it. As soon as we go past 600 subs, straight away, YouTube acknowledges how massive we are. And it's you guys we've got to thank for that one. Otherwise, we're just doing this between the two of us, really. But there we go.
Oh, Lewis has to be careful here. He needs to put a lap in, Adam, or he's in big trouble. He needs to put a lap in, like, big time. Mercedes, they look like they're struggling now, mate. They look like they're struggling.
Yeah, it's got to be frustrating. If you're a Mercedes fan, I do sympathise with you, because Friday, of course, showed a lot of promise. And I remember, Courtney, you and Lee were telling me in the chat about this, like you seemed quite encouraged and looking forward to seeing if this was going to ring true. And I just said to you guys, I remember saying it does look promising early days, but it's one of those where it's a new circuit, the track's got to rubber in. The conditions might be different one day to another. That often happens from Friday to Saturday. How often do we say that a team looks good on Friday and then they're nowhere? And I think for Mercedes, it's more important for them to get, how can I put this? To get the balance right, understand if these upgrades are having a positive effect in terms of their concept, because if it doesn't, they may have to ask that difficult question, is the concept flawed compared to what the leading cars are doing? And if that is the case, then down to square one again. Anyway, back to qualifying.
It's showtime, Adam. It's showtime for Lewis. I don't want to be too thingy, because obviously I'm a bit ahead. But by the looks of things, it looks like Lewis is only going to get one more shot.
Yeah. Well, we've got just over 3 minutes to go now. Just watching Pierre Gasly come across the line. The bottom 5 right now is no longer Pierre Gasly. Lewis Hamilton has now dropped in. We've got... it's changing all the time now. Sonoda's gone up to P5, so I'm going to have to be quick with this one. But right now, bottom 5 is Albon, Magnussen, Hamilton, Latifi, and Ocon, who looks like he's not going to get a time at all. So Russell goes up into P6. So George Russell, still a second off Charles Leclerc, but looks like he's going to be safely through. But Track Evolution is certainly ramping up. Magnussen up into P13. We've got Guan Yu Zhou now on the bubble. Mick Schumacher's dropped back into the bottom 5 as Latifi comes across the line. What's his time going to be? He's not gone quicker. So he's going to get one more go at this Nicholas Latifi to try and see if he can get through. But they're not too far off, to be fair. The Williams guys, they're not too far off at all. Looking at your face, Courtney, something's going on here. But we've just got just over 2 minutes left to go, guys. What's going to happen before the end of Q1? We'll have to wait and see. But Lewis Hamilton, so far, that is the headline right now. He is looking like he's staring down the barrel in Miami. And it's amazing, because no one can question Lewis's commitment right now. He's certainly trying. He's got so much traffic to negotiate on this final run.
That's what I was...
I mean, this is hammer time right now. He's got a Ferrari ahead of him that give him a little bit of a tow. He's a 10th.5 quicker than Fernando Alonso, who's currently on the bubble. Alonso, I had him down as P5, so I certainly don't want him to be hanging over the dropping point. Just to let guys, obviously, I know some of you might be ahead of us, but please refrain from putting any spoilers in the chat if you are ahead of us, just for the benefit of those like myself and others watching this on online broadcasting services that will be a bit behind the live television one. So if you do know what's going on ahead of us, which is about 60 to 90 seconds, do refrain. As Lewis Hamilton now half a second faster than Alonso, it's what he needs to do, but the question is, what is everyone else behind him doing? Because Track Evolution is certainly ramping up right now, so we've got to be mindful that Lewis may not be safe until the checkered flag drops. So just in the final minute now, as Lewis comes across the line, what is the time going to be? He might get a bit of a tow from the Aston ahead of him. Where's this going to put him? P5. Hopefully for Lewis, that should be enough to get him through in P5. But everyone else, with the exception of George Russell, is on another lap behind him. So let's not get too carried away just yet, but that looks like a good enough lap for Lewis Hamilton just when he needed to deliver. We're on board with Guan Yu Zhou in that driver's eye cam. He's got a tow from a car ahead of him. It looks like a Red Bull. Not quite sure why the Red Bull is out there. They look pretty safe, but there's so much traffic there. Zhou's going to surely be impeded by the cars ahead of him. I think he had Ricciardo and possibly Mick Schumacher ahead of him, so Guan Yu Zhou's not going to be very happy about that, and currently he's out of qualifying unless he improves. Alex Albon now coming through the final corners in the Williams everyone else, with the exception of George Russell, currently on a flying lap as he comes across the line. Albon does not improve. But I think he might get another lap in, although, to be honest, probably won't be able to. So I think that's the end of qualifying for Alex Albon, which will be disappointing because he looked fast in practice. Norris right now hasn't improved in sectors 1 or 2. Really struggling out of the final corner. Currently in P11, he will need to improve because there's a lot of quick guys behind him as he comes across the line. Does not improve. Fernando Alonso currently out of qualifying as it stands, but he's a second up on Kevin Magnussen as he's about to come through the final section of corners. Max Verstappen also on another flying lap. Stroll now goes up into P6 in the Aston Martin, puts his teammate Vettel at risk as well. Verstappen is so middle sector. Looks like maybe Ferrari have turned their engines up and they may have found an answer to the early pace that Red Bull was showing. Alonso across the line. He's up into P6, so the track is really ramping up at the right time for Fernando Alonso. Vettel now coming across the line. Can he get himself into Q2? Only P12. Might be okay with that one. We've got Norris and Gasly at risk. Bottas at risk as well, and he hasn't got another lap to do. So what can Nicholas Latifi do? Can he knock Bottas out of qualifying? The answer is no. He does improve, but he stays P19. We've also got Guan Yu Zhou on a lap, but I don't know if that's going to be anything spectacular. We're just about to come towards the end of qualifying. Is there anyone else on a lap? Courtney, seeing as you're ahead of me on this one, is Zhou on a lap? He is on a lap, so we'll have to wait and see. See, this is why we've got someone ahead of me on this one.
Do you know what, though? I must say that by the looks of things, both Mercedes boys are going to be through, and it's what a strange time to be alive that you're relieved that both your drivers are through the Q2. That just shows exactly what it's been like for the Mercedes fans this season.
So Zhou didn't improve, so he is out of qualifying, and I didn't think Zhou would improve because it looked like he used all of his battery for that last lap. So just a recap of the bottom 5. Esteban Ocon was not able to set a time owing to his crash in FP3, so unfortunately for him, he will start at the very back of the grid. Kevin Magnussen, Guan Yu Zhou, and the 2 Williams drivers are out of qualifying. So I suppose, Courtney, other than Esteban Ocon, probably the big shock, if any of them, probably the fact that we saw Zhou, who, let's be honest, wasn't spectacular in practice, so perhaps not surprised, but Magnussen, after such a very good start of the season, a brilliant qualifier so far this season, bit of a surprise that he didn't make it through. What do you think? I mean, the good news, if you're a Mick Schumacher fan, it's probably the first time Mick Schumacher's got the better on his teammate, but he's looked faster than K-Mag this weekend.
Yeah, you beat me to it. That's exactly what I was going to mention. I think the biggest standout from those positions there was Mick Schumacher. Finished P11, I think, in the end. So great stuff by Mick. He needed that. He really needed that because he was getting rattled by his teammate easy. It was easy stuff for Kevin Magnussen, and he had to put in a shift this weekend. And so far, so good for Mick. So he has to keep this going because Kevin Magnussen's obviously a tough teammate to have. But it's a good start. He just has to have a clean race. I think Mick Schumacher needs to have a boring race. No dramas, solid point scoring positions just to get his season going because it's been a weird one for him. You know, I think he had it easy with Mazepin as a teammate.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just seeing here the traffic. I think there was. I think there's a lot of silly buggers going on there.
Yeah.
Track evolution and everything.
Yeah.
I think silly buggers is probably the best way to sum it up. Yeah, there's a lot of swearing, a lot of silly buggers.
Yeah, no, I love that phrase. Just looking for the chat, guys. Just say hi to some of you guys. Chantel, Courtney's sister Chantel. Hi, Chantel. Hope you're enjoying qualifying so far. No, Chantel with her bold predictions. I remember back in the US Grand Prix, we were talking about this in the last podcast.
Yeah.
And nearly came true. So we should have listened to her. We'll have to get Chantel's thoughts again on the pod soon about what she thinks about the rest of the season. Maybe we'll see if she can predict where Mercedes will win their first race of the season, since she's so good at predicting Mercedes' fortunes, particularly with Lewis as well. Let's have a look through some other people in the chat. Juan Tuarit. Sorry, Juan, if I've pronounced that wrong. You're watching in Saudi Arabia. Wow, hope you are doing well over there. And I hope you're having a great time over there. Was a marshal in Jeddah as well. So, wow, that must have been an experience. And I'd love to hear a bit more about that one, Juan. That must have been pretty fun. Whereabouts, if you are watching this, were you stationed during the course of the Grand Prix? I'd like to know. It's quite interesting to see how fast those cars would have been going because a lot of high-speed parts of that lap. Colin Miranda again. So you're watching from Kota in the Velocity Lounge. I'm not quite sure what that is, but I imagine that sounds pretty good, and probably a nice view from there. So, yeah, Colin, DMs are open on the DNF1 page. Take a few pictures and send them over to us on Twitter at DNF1_official. That's our social media tag for Instagram and Twitter.
Oh,
You're
just
right,
saw a Spurs fan in the crowd.
Oh, God. I think it's 1-1 in that game with Liverpool. So, being an Arsenal fan, I need Liverpool to get another goal. So, come on, Liverpool. Don't let me down. And need another goal because we're fighting them for the top 4 in the Premier League. Not that many people in the chat probably care about that. They're more interested in the Formula 1.
I'm sorry. Calls himself a Spurs. So this guy in the crowd calls himself a Spurs fan. Why are you watching Spurs? Why is he watching Formula 1?
Maybe he's given up. And he's decided to go somewhere that he'd be a lot happier. We'll see. Let's see. Florian in the chat as well. Saw so much memes after Imola sprint race, Mick, when he finishes P10. Yeah, I'll tell you what. It does feel like a real monkey on his back, pardoning the phrase, over this one, because he really needs to get that off and get that first point. In a way, it's kind of like George Russell. You know, we all knew that there's quality there, and Mick, granted, Mick's probably not doesn't have as much potential as George Russell at this point in his career, but there's certainly quality there that he does have in him, and he just needs to be able to bring that out more consistently. He's certainly got a good car underneath him that can challenge for points this year. Last year, he drove an absolute dog of a car. And he didn't have much competition as one fan. So it certainly looks like he's enjoying himself out there, just seeing some of the fans dancing around.
That's why I cringed, mate. That's why I cringed.
That way you're cringing.
That.
Oh.
You tell he's been on the tinnies all morning.
Yeah, no, sorry, George Lucas. Did I say George Lucas? Oh, sorry if I did. I'm thinking of Star Wars Day the other day. So, typical Star Wars fan.
I'll tell you what, spare a thought for my niece. She was born on the 4th of May, so she's gonna have all the Star Wars geeks after when she's older.
Oh, was that Hallie?
Harley,
oh,
yeah.
Harley, sorry, yeah.
I'm gonna have to be a protective uncle and use the Force against them.
Ah, fair enough. Mingling Lee, hi Mingling. Hope you're doing well. Courtney, I think that's one of your pals over at the Isle of Dogs. Saying hello.
Yeah, one of our volunteers, a very lovely bloke, and both him and his girlfriend currently have COVID, so I'm wishing you both a healthy and speedy recovery. Hopefully I'll be seeing you soon at Mudchute.
I hope you guys are feeling okay, and all speedy recovery. COVID is certainly no joke. I know about that. I think everyone almost knows about that these days. It's just been such a crazy last few years. But anyway, look.
Got some advice actually.
Oh, go on.
Get some. If you get, when I had COVID, I got some Roundtree fruit pastel Calippos. You know, the ice lollies.
Yeah.
Honestly, they were god tier when I had COVID. They really helped me get through it.
I haven't had one of those in so long.
I recommend those fruit pastel Calippos to get you through COVID.
Oh, I haven't had one of those in so long. It's literally just sugar, like frozen sugar, but it's so good. So good.
That's exactly what you need when you have COVID. Frozen sugar. Frozen sugar's the answer.
Yeah, definitely. And sorry, I've completely got distracted just seeing a car on the track. We are underway for the second part of qualifying. Do apologise for that one, my bad. We are back underway at qualifying with 30 minutes, 45 seconds to go. Just seeing Charlotte. I thought it was a replay. There's Charles P1. I thought it was just a replay of his lap while they were going on. It just shows that we've been gassing on. But guys, of course, hope you are enjoying the coverage, the live watch along here at DNF1. If you are new to the channel and you're enjoying what you see, hit the subscribe button. Help us get to 1,000 subs. That's our target for the year. We've just gone past 600. So help us out any way that you can to help us reach that target. We'd absolutely appreciate that one. And of course, we hope you're enjoying the content. If you are, give the stream a like or share it with someone that you know that might want to check this out with us as well. Kaz Graham watching from Jamaica. Kaz, hope you are enjoying it. And I certainly wouldn't mind being out in Jamaica right now, to be honest. It's in probably similar conditions to Miami. It looks absolutely, definitely a bucket list location to visit as well. Just watching Mick Schumacher now on track. So he's through. Confidence will be up for him after beating Kevin Magnussen. And Florian saying I'm 20 seconds. Yeah, Florian, don't worry. You're going to be a little bit ahead of us. So, do please
Adam, I'm like 90 seconds ahead of you.
Yeah,
so
I know you are. I know you are. I'm just reading your reactions to try and see what's going on. But yeah, if you are ahead of us, guys, because of course we're watching the online. Well, I'm watching the online broadcast because I can't watch it on my TV at the moment. Do please refrain from putting any spoilers in the chat, just for the benefit of those of you that aren't watching qualifying. You're watching it with us, or you're watching it on the broadcast with us. So, But we'll have to wait and see how this all plays out. Just seeing some of the chat as well. Yeah, we appreciate that, guys. Thanks a lot for that one. Just seeing Mick Schumacher going purple in Sector 2. The two Ferraris on track as well. Sainz gone purple in Sector 1. We'll have to wait and see. Mingling Lee says, will the Mercs make it out of Q2?
I was going to say, this is a big session. This is a massive session for Mercedes. This is when we're really going to know if these upgrades or the changes they made to the car have had the desired effect. I worry that if they don't deliver here, and particularly in Barcelona, these next two races are going to be season defining for Mercedes. But this is the session where we're really going to see where Mercedes, whether they've improved or not.
Yeah,
so
absolutely
big
right.
10 minutes or so coming up for Mercedes.
So Leclerc comes across the line, 1:29.7. It's a few tenths slower than what he managed in Q1. Let's see what Sainz does. Sainz, has he backed off? Or no, he's gone fastest, 1:29.7 as well. So Ferrari's looking pretty handy, but we're expecting the track to get faster. I think Mick Schumacher did a 1:30.4. Bottas does a 1:30.6. So the track is certainly getting faster, and the Ferrari-powered teams are starting to enjoy themselves. And let's not forget, guys, not only Ferrari, but Haas and Alfa Romeo would also benefit from having that new upgrade power unit in their cars. So they're going to have, apparently it was reported as much as potentially 15-20 horsepower, as Verstappen now goes fastest with a 1:29.2, half a second clear. So it looks like Max has found his rhythm.
Great time.
So, yeah, it's starting to look interesting now. Perez goes P2, so Red Bull have started to show their hand a little bit. Ferrari definitely have a bit more pace in them, as we saw in Q1, especially Leclerc. So it's certainly poised when we come around to Q3. But those four, easily the class of the field, as we expected them to be. And unfortunately, Mercedes not quite joining them yet. But there's still time. There's still time.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to catch up, Adam, because someone has put in quite an intriguing time. I'm just going to wait for you to see that.
Well, I've got Norris coming through the penultimate corners now, so we'll see what Lando does with that basketball helmet. I mean, every time I see that helmet, the way that they detail, I feel like if anyone's ever held a basketball, as Norris goes P5, Hamilton also on a flying lap as well. What's his time going to be? Is this going to be the fast lap? It is going to be a fast lap for Hamilton.
It's a good lap.
It's a good lap.
That's a good lap.
So Hamilton started to find his mojo in the 29s now, so that's good to see from Lewis. Purple in the final sector. So that's certainly encouraging. And there's a lot of lap time on that penultimate corner where the camber goes a bit off, where there is lap time there for someone. So, yeah, we'll certainly have to wait and see who can nail it at that part of the lap. There's so many different lines going there as well. So we're quite interested.
Is something up with Russell? He's on an out lap.
Yeah.
He's had a bit of a slow start.
Yeah, he's a bit late at the pits. Maybe it's just finding the right time on track. You know, because of the track evolution, there's probably a right time to go out. But yeah, so he hasn't quite got out yet, or at least on my one. He's probably out for your one as well. And
yeah, he's out now.
So Florian's predicting Tsunoda, Stroll, Ricardo, Alonso, and I don't know, will be out. Well, come on, Florian, you've given us 4. You've got to give us a 5th one.
You know, no, I can't blame them. It's just chopping and changing all the time. I'm loving this though, but I was talking to you about this before we went live, Adam. Like, these qualifying sessions in particular, this is exactly what the fans wanted from these regulation changes. This is becoming more driver dependent, and this is exactly what we wanted. So long may we continue to have sessions like this, because I know after regulation changes, you sort of see the traditional teams, you know, having a better grasp because they obviously have the best people. But right now, this is good.
Yeah,
long may it
absolutely
continue.
Right. Yeah, that midfield battle is so tight. And as I said, it just one person puts in a solid lap and all of a sudden they're flying to the front of the midfield. We've got the two Alpha Tauris in 6th and 7th right now. Stroll's just gone P9 for Aston Martin. Aston Martin have gone a bit under the radar, haven't they? Because the last couple of races have actually not been too bad, especially Seb Vettel in Imola. Absolute brilliant performance from him, which is nice to see. Aston Martin have got some upgrades coming in Barcelona as well. So they claim that this car will look quite noticeably different in Barcelona, which is quite interesting, especially with these new cars, to see, you know, all the different design changes we've seen. As Vettel goes P12, so not quite good enough yet to get into the top 10. We've got Alonso and Bottas on improved laps. Alonso into 7th. Bottas now, what's he going to do? He goes 7th, so he's gone faster than Fernando
George is having a messy one.
Yeah, George Russell on track. Hasn't set a time yet. Only driver not to have set a time from what I can see. So we'll have to wait and see what he does. As Courtney said, it's a bit of a messy one already. Margaret Pine is saying, come on, Lewis. Hi, Margaret. Hope you're doing well. And Mingling Lee, Ferrari Master Blan with a B. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. I haven't quite got used to Ferrari being at the front again. It's been a long time, so I want this to last as long as possible.
Ooh.
Let's see what George Russell can do now as he comes across the line to start his flying lap. Courtney's rubbing his hands, so he knows something that I don't. So owing to the time difference between Courtney and
sorry,
my
Adam.
broadcast,
I'm sorry.
I suspect old Georgie boy might be on for a good one here, but we'll see. As he comes through the first few corners, bit shaky at the start of the lap, throws it in left. Oh, he's lost it a little bit, but he's managed to hold it together. I think that won't be too bad for him. That won't be too bad for him, actually, because it does go left to right. So the fact that the car's kind of thrown it right, but he's given up that lap. So George will have to go again. So not quite what I was hoping for there, George. Come on, George. We know you can do this. He's been brilliant all weekend.
It seems like there's been a sort of turnaround with the drivers. Lewis is looking more comfortable in the car, whereas George is struggling a bit more.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's one of those that with Lewis Hamilton throughout his entire career, and we saw this a lot when Bottas was his teammate, that Bottas would, famously be so quick throughout qualifying, and then when it came to Q3 on a Saturday, Lewis turns it on, as Lewis always does, always when it matters. And that's it, really. You don't have to be super, super fast straight away. It just, when it matters most, when you have to put the time together, when it counts, that's when Lewis is on his A game. And we're seeing more of that so far. Leclerc goes fastest with a 1:29.1.
That's what I reacted to. Game on.
You tease.
Game on.
You're teasing me. Naughty.
You're teasing me.
Love that GIF. Love that Vine as well. Sorry. Well, GIF, fine. And my mind's scrambled at this point. It's late.
No, it's not acceptable to call them GIFs in any situation whatsoever.
Oh, it's late night qualifying, Courtney. You got to give me credit on that one. Come on. Got to give me a let off for that one. Anyway, well, I call him GIF. I know he's, that's what I call him.
Well, I want to see in the comments, is it GIF or GIF?
Well, it's hardly
please let us know.
Well, they're going to have to spell it out, Courtney, because remember his comments, we'll read them. They
yeah.
Can't, yeah. So
you have to do like in brackets with a J.
Yeah.
If you think it's called GIF, that's what we'll do. I want to see it.
Well, there used to be a time when, obviously, when memes were first a thing.
Meme.
Yeah, do you remember people used to call them memes? I was like, or memes. I was like,
there was a girl I fancied. This was like 10 years ago. This girl I fancied who I was seeing, and she called it a meme, and I thought, you're too hot to criticize, so I'm gonna let it go.
It was either that, or you just have to move on and find someone else. Anyway, George Russell. George Russell, 15th at the moment. 5 minutes to go, 4.5 minutes to go actually in qualifying. George Russell on the bubble in 15th place, needs to get a time in the top 10.
Yeah,
there you go. See, Margaret says GIF. There you go. Argument over. I agree with Margaret. Fine.
No.
There we go. Ming Ling Lee says GIF. There we go. My people have spoken, Courtney. So we're right.
So I'm going to call my mum out here. I'm probably going to get a slap for it. But basically, when I was a kid, I was probably still am today. I used to really love turkey drummers.
Oh yeah.
And Mum used to call them turkey drummers. So Mum can't have an opinion when it comes to pronouncing things. I'm sorry.
I'm going to accept it anyway. George Russell coming across the line. Is this good enough to get in the top 10? It is good enough in the top 10, up to P7. Mick Schumacher also a PB in Sector 1, just coming up to Sector 2. Is it going to be green? Probably not going to be purple. I'd be amazing if it was. Let's see what he does. Sonoda's currently on the bubble. It's yellow in Sector 2. He's 3.5 tenths off Sonoda. So he's going to have to give up the ghost on this one and go again if he wants to get through into Q3. And Florian seems to agree with you on that one, Courtney. And, well, I'm going 2-1 on this one, so I think I've still won this debate.
Come on, people. You know.
Anyway,
you know how it's pronounced. Come on, help me out here.
Mick Schumacher, 13th fastest at the moment. Doesn't get into the top 10. And just in a separate note, Liverpool drew 1-1 with Spurs. So Liverpool looks like they've ruined their chances at the title. And good riddance. They've messed up one job. They had one job. And
yeah, I know, but do you know what? That was a neutral. That makes that London derby also more interesting.
Yeah,
next Thursday, bring it on. That's gonna be a stonker.
Not for me, don't. I wanted that to be easier. Anyway, Lewis Hamilton now currently in P5, 2.5 minutes left to go in Q2. Don't forget, guys, the top 10 go through to the pole position shootout, and let's see what Lewis can do. He's gone green in Sector 1, yellow in Sector 2. As it looks like he started to find his mojo when it's mattered most. And that speed trap there just under 200 miles an hour down the back straight. So the Mercedes is quick, not quite Red Bull quick, but
I'm wondering if Lewis is going to get enough time to put another lap in.
well, he should do. He hasn't improved by the looks of it, 129.9,
Yeah.
so he's still in the 29s. I mean, if he hasn't taken too much out of the tyres, maybe he was aware of that because, of course, the drivers have that on their dash, on their steering wheel,
Yeah.
where they are relative to their personal best. So knowing that he was down, he probably backed off a little bit in that final sector because he was yellow through there as well. So he's got plenty of time. He will have to sort of do a semi-aggressive cool down.
No, he's Oh, I'm sorry. Spoiler alert. Yeah, he wasn't able to do another lap,
Oh, has he not
so
done
he
it?
should be okay. He should be okay.
Yeah,
I think
I
he's
would
at least
say.
half a second out of it.
Yeah, I'd say he's probably through. Anyway, we've got Sebastian Vettel now, who's on his final attempt. Down in 14th at the moment, the Aston Martin. A couple of attempts off his teammate Lance Stroll. Can he drag that Aston Martin into the top 10? We'll have to wait and see. The Astons, I'm not quite sure if they're going to be good enough to be in the top 10. I think they're pretty handy, more handy in the race than in qualifying, it must be said. But Seb, he does have a few gem moments still left in him. Whether this is the last time we see Seb in Formula One for the 2022 season, but we'll have to wait and see. Florian saying, come on, Mick, activate the super dad mode. I'm not quite sure if Mick quite has that level in him, although that wouldn't be a bad upgrade if it was. Let's see. Williams cutting paint to lose weight. Merc adding paint on the car to look cooler. And, well...
I was thinking that, whilst everyone else is
Yeah,
getting rid of their paint job, because McLaren have done it, as well. I know it's McLaren that's sort of looking more and more black by the day.
Yeah, well, it's that sort of the carbon fibre thing. Obviously, the paint obviously adds weight to it. Just going back to Vettel now, because he's only a 10th off Tsunoda, so Vettel could make it through to the top 10 if he absolutely nails
Look
this
at George
final
Russell,
part of that.
Adam. Look at George Russell.
Yeah, he's currently, he's 7th at the moment on a flying lap. I haven't quite got him on screen right now. I'm just looking at him on the mini-map, so he's coming towards... Oh, where's that car? It looks like he's in the middle of Sector 1 at the moment. Anyway, Seb Vettel coming across the line. Is this through to the top 10? It is through to the top 10. He's up into P8. It's a great final sector from Vettel, but we've still got drivers behind him. Everyone else on a lap, except for the drivers ahead of him. Stroll, is he going to get through? He goes even faster, up into 6th. So Track Evolution really starting to do business now. Bottas, he goes up to P5. George Russell, very close to being on the bubble. Mick Schumacher cannot get through. Haas P14. A bit disappointing, but perhaps that was the most that they could get out of that car. We'll have to wait to see how he does in the race. Norris currently outside the top 10, up into P3. The track is ramping up, guys. This could be a problem. Russell currently out. Tsunoda in the top 10. P9. Alonso on a flying lap. Can he get back into the top 10? No, he cannot. Down to 11th is Gasly on the bubble. So Alonso out of qualifying. Russell is in the pits, actually. So George Russell's gone out of qualifying.
Yeah.
Wow. Completely missed that altogether. So George Russell was on a lap. Didn't improve. Went straight into the pits. So George Russell, for the first time since Imola, which was the last race, actually. So George Russell, not through to Q3. So Lewis Hamilton, so far, he's going to be safe. Ricciardo on a lap. He's down in P15. So can Ricciardo improve? He's gone green in Sector 1, green in Sector 2. But where is he related to Pierre Gasly as he comes through the final section now? Can Ricciardo get through into the top 10 for McLaren? No. P14. Very tight in that elimination battle. 2 temps.
I think that's another example where Lando's showing his star quality here, What a lap by Lando.
Yeah, that's
even some of the other
incredible.
guys. Seeing the other guys, I'm not going to say any names in particular just in case you're not at that point yet. But that battle is so close. You've got Lando Norris up there. Valtteri Bottas has been doing a good job. Even Lance Stroll, we've been very critical of Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll's been putting in a good lap here and there when he's needed to. So I think apart from the top 3, top 4, I think anyone could end up. Lewis, for example, Lewis could be anywhere from 4th, 5th to 10th. But at the end of the day, mate, again, that's what I said. That's what the fans wanted. So you can't complain if it's your driver struggling. That's what we asked for, and that's what we're getting.
No, and this is it. It must be said. This is what we wanted, and sometimes you're going to get some casualties in the midfield. And as I said, looking at Gasly to Mick Schumacher was literally just 0.2 of a second from 10th to 15th. It is literally, it can be made up in just a few corners on a track like this. It really is. If you nail it right, you're through. If you don't quite get it right, you're out of qualifying. But that is the end of qualifying 2. And we lost, what was it? Alonso, Mick Schumacher, George Russell, Daniel Ricciardo, and Sebastian Vettel all out of qualifying, and they'll make up positions 11th to 15th. So just a few minutes away now for qualifying 3, whilst we have a little bit of a break. Final qualifying session for those of you that are new to qualifying Q3, 12 minutes of running to determine who will be on pole, and obviously who will start all the way down from 1st to 10th. Get your predictions in now, guys. Ferrari versus Red Bull, by the looks of it. Leclerc versus Verstappen. Is Perez going to get involved in there? Is Sainz going to get it all together? We'll have to wait and see. Will we get a surprise from anywhere else? Doesn't look likely, but you never, ever know. But let us know, guys, who you think is going to be on pole position. David saying with thoughts on Mercedes. I mean, Lewis certainly found some pace. I mean, I said going into this weekend, I think if Mercedes brought upgrades onto their car and after Friday, even though Mercedes looked relatively good, I just felt that they would be in the 3rd fastest team this weekend, and it would be a bit more comfortable for them. The race pace in the Mercedes looked good, but they averaged around about half a second a lap off the likes of Red Bull and Ferrari in race trim from what we saw on the long runs.
And that was about a second behind at the beginning of the season.
Well,
so that's progress nonetheless.
And they did look comfortably quicker than everybody else, more consistent. So expect George Russell to make his way through the field, and there's plenty of opportunities to overtake on this circuit. There's 3 DRS zones, lots of high-speed areas, so I expect to see George Russell fight his way through the field, and it's good to see Lewis up there, but of course he's going to have to put it together in Q3. He's certainly not done all the work yet, but that's probably the first time this weekend that we've seen Lewis Hamilton look a lot more like the Lewis Hamilton that we know. Just trying to think. Courtney, I know you prepared some red flag topics. We haven't had a red flag yet, but seeing as we're waiting for Q3, have you got any interesting segue topics to talk about whilst we wait for Q3 to get started?
I've got an F1 related one, and there is someone who's been seen as a segue over the past few years, and that's Valtteri Bottas. He's put in another good performance here in Q2. And I think with Valtteri Bottas, he never got the credit that he deserved for his qualifying pace. The race pace wasn't good enough. I completely agree. He wasn't in the races enough. But his qualifying pace, he actually challenged Lewis a lot more than he gets credit for. And he's actually showing that Alfa Romeo, his qualifying pace in particular, has actually been quite good. You know, he's up there with Lewis Hamilton and Lance Stroll. So he's doing a good job. Long may it continue for Valtteri, because you know he's not a terrible driver. It's just when you have a teammate like Lewis Hamilton, it's never going to be easy, is it?
No, absolutely not. There's always going to be that pressure, and I think a lot of people probably didn't give Valtteri the credit he deserves, as you mentioned, Courtney. You know, he was going up against one of the greatest drivers of all time, in some people's opinion, the greatest driver of all time. And I feel like when you're beaten by someone like Lewis, and we're talking fine margins over one lap, over a race distance is a different thing altogether. But I think the all-time greats have that special ability to stretch out that advantage over a race distance, much more so than being amazingly fast over the course of one lap. It's never a guarantee over that. And in Valtteri's case, he was always pretty good. But let's be honest, how often was he going to beat Lewis Hamilton? Not very. So it's nice to see him in a team, in a good car, when he's got the full backing of the team behind him and he can put it all together. And we're seeing these consistent performances, and he's looking quick. Just looking at our predictions, Courtney, all 3 of us have failed in this one, because I had Alonso in my top 5. He's not in Q3. You had Russell, and so did Lee.
Russell.
So it's going to have to be a 4 out of 5 at least.
George!
Yeah. Where's Alex Albon with that George meme, eh?
My dog's currently in the living room. She was sleeping, and she looked at me and like, "Who the hell is this guy shouting George?"
Guys, of course, just to let you know, obviously, if you are enjoying this, once again, just going to plug the channel as always. We have a regular podcast, sometimes weekly, sometimes we do 2 episodes a week. But if you want to catch up with all the latest news, gossip, and events in F1, and I'll get our takes on this, we have the DNF1 podcast. So if you're new to the channel, subscribe, and you will not miss the latest podcast. And as a bit of a preview, just to let you know who we've got on for the next episode, not the race review that we're doing on Monday that will go out Tuesday, because it's going to be a late race, so we'll record on Monday instead. But next Friday, it's going to be a 2-part episode. We're going to have one on Friday and one on Monday. This is going to be the same guest. It was a really, really long chat. And it's a former F1 race engineer with experience at Haas and three-time world champion race engineer at Mercedes. So, yeah, stay tuned for that one. I won't reveal who it is, but if you want to find out who I was talking to for the next episode of the podcast, you know what to do. Subscribe to the channel. And if you follow us on a favourite podcasting platform, subscribe there. It's the only way you're going to find out, guys. So, certainly excited about that one. You have to check that out.
Lovely little plug there, mate. We're getting ex-F1 engineers on the show, mate. We're going places, levels, mate.
Well, this is it. I think the channel's growing in stature now, or the pod is at least, to a point where we are actually getting replies from a lot of people in F1, whether or not they want to come on the show. I mean, granted, most of them are no, or I'm busy, but it's nice to know that we're starting to get noticed now. But we are getting some good people on, and we've had some great guests on recently. So, yeah, you'll have to tune into the channel to find out who I managed to get on the show. So, let's wait and see. Anyway, Q3's just started. So we're about 11 minutes and 10 seconds to go. So we just started Q3, guys. And this is going to determine the pole position shootout. Who's going to be on pole for tomorrow's race in Miami?
I get the feeling we're going to be seeing a lot of silly buggers in this session. I think the silly buggers are going to return in full flow.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I'm just looking at the fake marina. And, yeah, we've seen a lot of good meme content on there. I think someone said they need to get Antonio Giovinazzi to walk on water, quite literally. We had Adam Stern on here for Sports Business Journal based in the US. We needed him to get out there. He served some good meme content on there at the fake marina. I think we had Matt Gallagher pour some water on there, so there actually was water. It's a shame. I mean, if someone's invited Snoop Dogg out there and he lights one up, then I want to see a picture of that and someone just put the caption "smoke on the water." Like the famous, there you go. Like the famous Deep Purple song. Courtney knows. And if anyone does know what I'm talking about, then you are an official legend in my eyes. So if you're not, just type in "Smoke on the Water" on YouTube and great guitar riff on that one. Anyway, look, 10 minutes to go, Courtney. Everyone's just ramping up to get their first runs in Q3.
Yeah.
We've seen some great stuff from the Ferraris and the Red Bulls so far. Looking the class of the field, particularly Leclerc and Verstappen. Who's your pick for pole position?
You know what? I'm going to go with Max. I'm going to go. You look, regardless of how you feel about the team that he drives for in particular, the guy's fantastic. He really is a fantastic. In terms of talent, Geezer's unreal. So he's the guy that usually has that little bit of that little tenth or so in these tight battles, but Charles Leclerc has been driving brilliantly this season, so it's gonna be a really close one. I think the other questions we need to ask ourselves are, where's Lewis going to take himself here?
Well,
he's got to be aiming for fifth here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he's got to be aiming for fifth.
I'll tell you what, I'm just watching Leclerc right now dancing his Ferrari around that first sector. That looked absolutely on rails. And Carlos Sainz has gone even faster in the first sector. I mean, I tell you what, I mean, the Red Bull is good as well, but this Ferrari in the corners is an absolute sight. It really is. And it's a gorgeous car. And I will fight anyone on that hill. I think it's one of the sexiest F1 cars I've ever seen. And I know I'm a Ferrari fan. I'm biased, I know, but it looks absolutely gorgeous. I don't care who disagrees with me on that one. Just watching Leclerc now go through that tricky section. And he's actually been quite decent through that area, considering the issue he had at Variante Alta. He's been attacking those chicane curbs. And he's been getting the line rather well. He's just gone purple in the middle sector, 1.305. Sainz is matching him over the first two sectors, if just a little bit off him as he comes down that back straight now. Max Verstappen slower than the two Ferraris in sector one. Not much of a surprise there. Ferrari really have nailed that first sector, but it's the rest of the lap where the Red Bull redeems itself. Leclerc does a 1:29.0. So that's the benchmark so far. What's Sainz going to do as he comes across the line? 1:29.0, but he's P2. Verstappen goes purple in the middle sector, and he's about 0.04 of a second off Leclerc and Sainz. And this is the part of the lap where Verstappen does tend to pick up extra performance with the speed of that Red Bull as he comes through the penultimate corner now. Is Max Verstappen, he a little bit shaky off the exit, but he managed to get the power down, comes across the line. What's this time going to be for Verstappen? Fastest, 1:28.9. So we have got a 1:28. And it's just under a tenth, Corny, 0.06 of a second to Leclerc's. Perez goes P4. As we were, Courtney.
Great stuff.
Red Bull sandwich with a Ferrari filling, certainly looking very mouth-watering as Hamilton goes P6. Bottas in
Behind
P5.
Bottas.
Bottas.
See what I mean?
But it just says it all, doesn't it? Like the two leading teams, and then you've got Bottas in P5, just under a second slower. It's crazy how fast these two teams are right now, and we certainly hope there will be more to join that in the future. But right now, these two are just in a completely different league, especially Leclerc and Verstappen. Although to be fair to Sainz, it was a very good lap as well.
Very good. He's for someone that's had such a messy weekend. Fair play to the guy, putting a great shift there. Great effort.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, looking at Q1 and Q2, Sainz was okay, but nothing spectacular. So it looked like he was still struggling for performance after that crash, and he lost a lot of running as a result. But he certainly found his mojo when it mattered the most. So yeah, great to see. And oh man, we need Mercedes up there as well. I know I'm a Ferrari fan, and I shouldn't be saying this, but it would be so much more fun if we had more cars in the mix. Two teams are fine.
Bottas, though. Valtteri Bottas. Well done, Valtteri.
Yeah, very impressive in Valtteri. But then again, look, Valtteri is probably one of the best qualifiers F1 has had, and I don't care who, statistically, it won't support that. But you got to remember, he was competing up against the greatest qualifier that F1 has ever seen over one lap. If you had a driver to deliver one lap to save your life, it's Lewis Hamilton. So the fact that Bottas was sometimes half a tenth or a tenth off of Lewis most times. Not counting occasions where Lewis absolutely bodies him in qualifying. That alone, that's incredible pace in the same car as well. So it's a great measuring stick to compare him against. So,
Got to say fair play to Lance Stroll as well, getting that car in Q3.
Great job.
That's a driver I've heavily criticised on a regular basis. So you've got to give credit where credit's due.
See, look, we have to praise the Canadian drivers when they do well, because we get a lot of Canadian followers, and don't get me wrong, we love you guys for weighing in, but you guys aren't happy with us because we keep constantly criticising the likes of Stroll and Latifi. I think there's merit half the time with that, but when they do well, they deserve praise in equal measure. So, and it's not just us. I'm just looking at the chat now. Someone said, can't wait for Latifi to waste time by crashing again. There you go. I didn't even instigate that. Someone else did that. So it's not me. It's not just me. It's other people too. But no, we do praise in equal measure. And Stroll, he does have those moments, Stroll, where he does put it together, and he's a very good driver. My biggest criticism of Stroll is that he shows us he's got it in him, but he just doesn't consistently do it. And it is frustrating because he'll put together a great performance. It's like Turkey a couple of years ago when he put it on pole and he was winning the race for like halfway through, and then he completely lost momentum. All right, it was a bit unlucky on strategy, but it just went against him. But it's stuff like that. You're thinking, how can he do that well? And then other days, he's just absolutely terrible, like he doesn't belong in F1. It's crazy. He just needs to put more of the good performances together and he'll be fine. But, yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that gets on. He's certainly got the safest seat in F1 right now, Lance Stroll, so I don't think we're going to have to worry about him delivering at a deadline in order to save his seat, so it should be all right. I've been waffling on a bit, guys. 4 minutes left to go. Get your predictions in for pole now. Right now, it seems to be 1 of 4, perhaps 1 of 3, because Perez is a little bit off of his teammate at the moment, so he's going to have to find some performance somewhere. But we've got Verstappen. We've got Leclerc, 600ths off of him. We've got Sainz, a few more hundredths off Leclerc. All to play for, Courtney. 3.5 minutes to go. You're sticking with it?
I'm really going to have to learn to rein it in the next couple of minutes, I really am.
Yeah, I will appreciate it if you can. I can don't worry, you can make all the facial reactions you want. Even if you're trying to double bluff me on this one, you can do what you like, as long as... Yeah, exactly that. Do that for me, mate. That's it.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me still?
Oh, I can hear you, but
okay.
Just trying to cover up... No, it's a terrible poker face, mind you, but there we go.
I am. I have a terrible poker face. I can't deny that.
But do you know what? I'm actually glad that we haven't had a delay in qualifying. I think this is the first time this season that I've actually done one of these live streams where I've not had to go on for an hour to find other topics to talk about by myself because there's been red flags or rain. We've had none of that today, and even if I jinx it now and there's a red flag, it doesn't matter because qualifying will probably be all but over if there is. So it's not like we're going to be missing out. Anyway, 2.5 hours. Not 2.5 hours, 2.5 minutes. Almost got there. 2.5 minutes left to go.
Right, I'm going to...
Final runs.
Yeah, going to just see who's where. So Leclerc's ahead of Sainz. So this is just to build up to the final lap. give you a picture. So Leclerc's head of Sainz, and Verstappen is behind the two of them. So it'd be Leclerc first, then Sainz, then the two Red Bulls.
Well, we do,
And Lewis, Lewis is behind Sainz.
Yeah, we do say track evolution has obviously been critical and it has ramped up the performance on this circuit. I think at this point of the session, I think there's not really much of a disadvantage to being where Carlos Sainz is compared to where Max Verstappen is, for example. I think everyone's pretty much going to have it the same in terms of performance, but there's literally nothing in it. And fair play to Ferrari, because it looked like after FP3 that Max Verstappen in particular and Perez and Red Bull looked like they had it all in their own hands. I mean, come the race with that straight line performance, it may prove to still be their advantage. The race pace, Ferrari looked good. Red Bull looked very good on race pace as well. Hardly anything to separate them. So that Red Bull car is definitely looking like a more handy race car when it has to overtake than the Ferrari does for that speed advantage. So great design from Adrian Newey, designed specifically for that. And in this era where the regulations are going to be frozen on engine performance after September for the electronics, we've already frozen for the internal combustion engine. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, Charles Leclerc coming out of the final corner, the first of the two Ferraris, now on his final flying lap. The championship leader about to set his final time. Let's see how he gets on now as he goes through. No mistakes, squeaky bum time, mum spaghetti time. This is it for Charles Leclerc. Courtney's face is doing bits, so we'll have to wait and see if this is the double bluff or not, guys. But I'm watching along. I'm on Leclerc at the beginning of his lap now, so let's wait and see what the championship leader can do. Carlos Sainz also starting his final lap, as is Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. So let's see who's going to be on pole, guys. We'll just have to wait. Won't have long to wait. Leclerc goes a 10th up in Sector 1. Purple Sector 1. He's gone a 10th up on Verstappen. Sainz goes a quarter of a second up on Verstappen. Sainz finds purple, so he's a 10th and a half up on his teammate. What a first sector for Carlos Sainz. Is that going to shape the rest of the lap for him as Leclerc now attacking the middle sector? He's got to find a 10th and a half on his teammate. Never mind what he's going to have to do on Verstappen now as he comes through the chicane, really attacks that part of the lap there. No mistake from Leclerc whatsoever. Looks like that car is on rails now. Comes through the middle sector. He's a fraction of a second up in the middle sector now. Leclerc's found that time, but what is Sainz going to do? Sainz has lost a bit of time. He's now 300ths behind his teammate, or 200ths I should say. So Leclerc has the advantage. Verstappen is going very slowly there as he hit the wall. It looks like Verstappen's hit the wall, so his lap is gone. So we could have the Ferrari 1-2 here as Leclerc comes across the line. Leclerc goes pole provisionally, but where is Sainz? Is this going to be a Ferrari 1-2? Let's wait and see. Sainz goes second, so it's Ferrari first and second. And Verstappen, I think I saw Verstappen a little bit, one of the smaller screens hit the wall.
He had enough.
Yeah, he had enough. So it's going to be Ferrari 1-2. Bottas goes into P4 to split the Red Bulls. Where is Perez? Hamilton is P6 at the moment. Norris and Tsunoda. Norris stays 7th. Where's Tsunoda and Gasly in the AlphaTauris? Where's Perez? Is he's on a lap right now, so Perez coming down the back straight, is he? He goes back into P4. So Perez improves, but cannot beat his teammate or the Ferraris. Gasly goes up into P7. Waiting for Tsunoda. He stays P9. So that is the end of qualifying, guys. Max Verstappen bottles it on his final run, and it's a Ferrari 1-2. Believe is that the first time this season we've had Ferrari first and second? I believe it might be. Leclerc,
they need to do.
Well, I mean,
they need to do a job here.
That is it. I think that is the first Ferrari 1-2 this season, and what a turnaround. When we thought Red Bull were going to do it, all of us had Red Bull pole position. I had a Red Bull 1-2, but it's not going to be. I'm not disappointed at all, of course. It's Ferrari 1-2. So just to recap of the top 10, Charles Leclerc, the championship leader, on pole position for tomorrow's race. Carlos Sainz, P2 for Ferrari 1-2. Verstappen messes up his final run. Haven't seen a replay of what happened yet, but he will start P3. Perez in the sister Red Bull in P4. Just about to see a replay of Max Verstappen. So he's going through the left to right. Oh, and he loses it. The back end just gets out on him, and it completely ruins his lap. And well, it's those fine margins that really decides what happened. You go from first to third. Fair play to Ferrari. Whether Verstappen would have been able to beat those times remains to be seen. Great stuff from the Ferraris. Perez fourth. Bottas in P5. Brilliant stuff from Valtteri Bottas. Lewis Hamilton, in fairness, I wouldn't have thought Lewis Hamilton would have been P6. after what happened in practice this weekend, but he's done a great job to get there whilst George Russell has struggled. Pierre Gasly in P7, and then you've got Lando Norris in P8, Tsunoda in P9, and P10, Lance Stroll. Great job for him in the Aston Martin. So, Courtney, what a session. Didn't expect a Ferrari 1-2. We thought Red Bull were going to dominate, but it's Leclerc and Sainz for Ferrari.
Yeah, I was just saying, Chuff, I think Ferrari needed that. They need to put in a dominant 1-2 display, because they started off, particularly in Bahrain, for example. They come into this new season with the fastest car, and I was thinking about this earlier on, actually. I don't think they've capitalised, particularly with Carlos Sainz. They haven't capitalised on where the car is at. So they need to do that. This is a great opportunity for them to make a real statement in this championship battle. They need to do it. Look, it's not going to be easy for Carlos Sainz to keep Max Verstappen behind him, but he needs to do a job for the team, hold up Verstappen, mess up his strategy. This is what Mercedes were very good at, getting a car 1-2 in qualifying, and Valtteri Bottas in particular is very good at holding up. If it would be one of the Red Bulls or one of the Ferraris behind them, Bottas was there usually to mess up the strategy. So that's what Carlos Sainz, whoever's P2 beginning of the race after the first corner, whoever's in P2, they have to mess up Max Verstappen's race, because that Red Bull's going to be mighty on the long straight. So they need to do a good team job tomorrow. But Carlos Sainz can do it. This is the big opportunity for Carlos Sainz as well, to take a claim in this Ferrari team with the car that they currently have.
Yeah, absolutely right. And of course, for Charles Leclerc as well, so important that he responded after that huge mistake that he made, the first one that he's made all season at Imola, in emphatic fashion. He's looked fast this weekend. He's on pole position. So great to see that he's been able to respond. But Carlos Sainz, as you were saying, Courtney, it's so critical that Sainz has had so much difficulty the last few races. He's had an off. He obviously had an off in FP3. He looked like it affected him this weekend, but when it mattered most, he put the lap together and he's put that Ferrari on the front row. So it's going to be critical for him to get that right. Quick word for some of the other stories out there. Valtteri Bottas in P5. Great job from him. Lewis Hamilton, I think all things considered, I think he'll be relatively satisfied with that, although Mercedes will be still wondering where that Friday performance has gone. And they still have some questions to answer. Maybe their race pace will be better, but Lewis, I think for him, probably will be hoping to take advantage of some other mistakes up front. AlphaTauri, after a difficult performance in Imola, where they were both out in Q2, or Q1 actually, I believe, both of them in Q3. And Tsunoda getting the better of Pierre Gasly, so he's done a very good job. And Lance Stroll in P10. Good job for him and Aston Martin. So the car's got pace there. So many stories. And
Verstappen looks gutted.
Yeah, I can see. Well, this is it. I mean, he probably had the pace and probably had the fastest car underneath him this weekend. But as I said, it's fine margins, and there's literally nothing to separate those two cars. Literally half a tenth here or there. And you make a mistake, and that's it. And the Ferrari's improved. So such a huge weekend. And as you mentioned, Courtney, it's going to be critical for Ferrari to use that team game. If they can get both those cars to stay ahead of the Red Bulls after the first couple of laps, it could prove to be a very good weekend for Ferrari. It's certainly not a conventional street circuit. It's more like a Jeddah, Baku than a Monaco.
It's gonna be very interesting to see how Max responds here. Look, he's a world champion now. He's got that experience, but is he going to take the frustration from today in a positive light, or is he going to do something mad against Carlos Sainz, perhaps? Because up against two Ferraris, he knows he's going to have to get ahead of at least one of them to have a strong claim to win this race. He'll be desperate to do it. It'd be interesting if he takes the Max Verstappen of old approach or world champion Max Verstappen approach. It'd be interesting to see if he's learned from experiences, particularly from last season. These are the kind of moments we're going to see if we're seeing signs of maturity from Max Verstappen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just looking at Max now, he's not looking the happiest, man, as Danica Patrick's just talking to Carlos Sainz about his performance in qualifying. And then this is it. Ferrari needed to put in a performance where they had both their guys right up there in this fight. And with respect to Carlos Sainz, when Leclerc has put his car up there, he hasn't been able to match him. He was there in Jeddah, but in the race, obviously, that sort of fizzled out the way it is. But he's up there now. This could be a really crucial weekend for Ferrari. If they could get some big points out of this one, to sort of mitigate that Red Bull charge to a degree before they put their own upgrades on the car and perhaps give themselves a bit of an advantage, because this is still the basic Ferrari minus a slightly new rear wing and an upgraded engine, which was coming anyway. So Very positive signs indeed. But look, guys, that has been the end of qualifying. If you have enjoyed this live stream, of course, do consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Of course, the review for the Miami Grand Prix that's happening tomorrow, that's going to be going out Tuesday morning as we review it on a Monday. But we certainly hope it's going to be a great race indeed. But until next time, guys, we've been DNF1. Thank you so much for tuning into the live stream. We'll see you on the next one. But until then, we'll see you in the next DNF1 live stream or podcast. But until then, take care, have a good night, and stay safe. Thanks a lot for tuning in.
See you soon.